What did the weird kid do to earn that reputation? The weird kid at my school always claimed she was a wizard, and when someone spoke to her when she was casting a spell, screaming at the ground, she would turn around and either scream in their face or bitch slap them. I was new to the school at the time and I got screamed at cause I was legitimately worried that she might be hurt or something. Power word: catch these hands. Second level evocation 1 action 5 feet V instantaneous channeling the words of power through your body and into the world. You empower yourself with the magic of the world at creation. Make a melee spell attack against a creature within range. They must make a wisdom saving throws against your spell DC. On a failure, they are stunned. They may repeat this saving throws at the beginning of each of their turns. Once they succeed their saving throw, they must use all of their movement on the next turn moving away from you. The targeted creature will avoid you as much as possible, and will not stop avoiding you for anything less than a wish spell. Do a countdown to his farts like they were a fucking moon launch. Of all the things I thought I would find in this thread, inspiration wasn't one of them. He brought a live lobster to a middle school dance and let it go on the dance floor during the dance. Wasn't even a question of who would have done this. It was Nate. Nate did it. Why are so many of these weird kid stories about a Nate? He thought he was a robot. Often you'd find him in the halls alone talking to electronics about destroying the human race or having a conversation with a locker. Could this be Mark Zip's origin story? Got caught whacking it in the school bathroom. Then later got his dick stuck in a shampoo bottle. Guys, if you get your dick stuck in a shampoo bottle, and your mom has to take you to the hospital to remedy the situation, you need to keep that to yourselves. There is no teenager in the world who's going to keep that knowledge to themselves. The legend himself. Finger themselves during class, then brought a cake the next day to apologize. What kind of cake? There was a girl in my 6th grade class that would very indiscreetly rub herself with the underside of the water bottle. Next year she had her first of 2 kids. She is only 18 now. I wonder if she was abused or something. Set his arm on fire on a school trip to France. Sprayed his arm with deodorant for about a whole minute before getting someone to light it. It wouldn't go out until he used the tap in the bathroom to douse it with water. He ended up with blisters and permanent scarring. So the school trip ends and we go back to school the week after. All of a sudden me and 4 other kids get pulled into a classroom, to be questioned by police and the head teacher. He basically told his mum that we did it to him. Obviously this did not stick, as we all had the same story. If I had Facebook I would look him up, see how life is for him nowadays. Edit, forgot to say deodorant is what he used. Fuck people like that. A classmate in elementary broke his arm doing dumb shit and tried to frame us for it because he was embarrassed. He pulled some shit like that later in school life too. Synthesized 1 liter of mercury failing basic chemistry class isn't weird, it's normal. Edit, my response is to a comment about a weird kid who was into violence and chemicals, including telling his class that he synthesized a liter of mercury to poison everyone. Which is impossible because mercury is an element, and can't be synthesized. Because everyone seems to be asking. Collected earthworms when it rained, in the pouch of his hoodie. And then laid them out in the schoolyard, spelling his own name. He cried when he saw that it had been scraped from the pavement the next day. By that time he was around 13. Predictably, we started calling him Worm Kid. He got expelled around a year later, for throwing a fistful of earth at a teacher. Edit, to elaborate on him having to leave the school. This act of dirt tossing happened inside of a classroom, at close proximity, when he'd been called to the blackboard during a Latin lesson. I'm from Europe. The teacher completely lost her shit. The moist soil was all in her hair, and she later said a couple of live beetles and little pebbles or bone splinters were also found in that mix, though I can't say whether that's true. He got expelled around a year later, for throwing a fistful of earth at a teacher. Earthbender. Damn, what a badass. He used his earthbending powers to attack a teacher. Worm Kid is probably out living in nature happily now. Ate a live lizard while the entire school was hanging out on the football field during a fire drill. He drew Pokemon porn during class. For a few years. Ah yes, his future career. Well, fucked a goat lad. In kindergarten we had this girl who used to show us that she could put sticks inside her peeing place. As kids, we were fascinated, grossed out and amazed at the same time. Yet, we never really thought more of it. It was her thing, she liked to show us that she could put objects inside that spot. Only years on years later, in context, we were around 4 when this happened. I'm 36 today and I think I only realized 1 to 2 years ago that this girl was most likely subject to sexual abusive. I knew she came from a somewhat troubled home, but as a 4-year-old and the years after, I didn't possess the skill set or know how to identify this. As a teenager and the years onwards, I forgot about her. Only to think of her a few years back as someone said something which triggered the scenario. Wherever you are, girl, now woman, I hope you're good and living your best life. Holy shit, that's crazy. Did any teachers or the principal ever find out and do something about it? I knew she came from a somewhat troubled home, but as a 4-year-old and the years after, I didn't possess the skill set or know how to identify this. As a teenager and the years onwards, I forgot about her. Only to think of her a few years back as someone said something which triggered the scenario. This reminds me of when I was young. My next door neighbor told me about her friend losing her virginity to some older guy behind a fairground on the bonnet of a car while drunk. At that age I knew it was wrong, but in the same way I knew that young teens drinking and smoking were wrong. They're things that adults do and some teens do them because they're desperate to appear grown up. It's only years later it really dawned in me that some creep got a literal child drunk and fucked her in a public place, and I just didn't have the perspective and life experience to know how utterly vile that was. Dude would wear a stormtrooper costume and taped an old flip-up phone to his arm and pretend to talk through it. This was in HS. He was particularly odd because he was like a born genius, so he'd often get bored in class and get up to some weird shit. Now this is a lad I'd like to hear some more stories about. Pulled out his pubes or armpit hair one by one and ate them. Pulled out his pubes or armpit hair one by one. Me, yeah, that would do it, and ate them. Me, I regret reading this and it's now seared into my brain. Cut himself in class, waited for the blood to congeal a bit then ate it. Just writing that made me gag. Years later he got arrested for stabbing someone. Raised his hand, and when the teacher called on him to answer his question, he started singing Frère Jacques. This made me laugh way too much. Ah yes, the ultimate response. He was quiet at first, so me and my friends became friends with him. Months later he confesses his love to one of them and gets rejected, and starts stalking us by finding out where we live, and more to the point where we had to get restraining orders on him that he kept breaking. He had a notoriety for shitting his pants at least once a day and was super casual about it. I remember I was behind him in the hall one day when I saw a massive turd plop out of his short legs. He looked back at it and just kept on strutting. He was at a high level of not giving a fuck. Damn, you usually don't get to that point until you're old. Whoa wait. What the hell? This kid was just walking around fully loaded all day? And shit coming out of his pants was a once a day thing? He would jerk off everywhere and be caught, like all the time. In class, on the football field, in the tuba room, you name it. He also claimed with all seriousness to everybody that he was dating the most popular girl at our school. She was in a long-term relationship with another one of the popular kids, so everyone knew he was full of shit, but he stuck to his guns. That's all well and good, but there was a whole room at school dedicated to tubers. When we were about 15, Harrison, we were all addressed by our surnames, decided one day to wrap his penis in adhesive tape during a biology lesson. I can't remember why, nor how he managed to remove it, but I was impressed. He also held the record for stabbing into the desk between each finger of his outstretched hand with a compass, a very sharp point, as fast as possible, despite hitting a finger at least once. He later became a distinguished surgeon. Word around the oar is that you have an adhesive cock. That hand coordination. Yeah, makes sense. Subscribe for more hot Reddit takes in your inbox, guaranteed.